Absolutely not. The hydrangeas clash with the peonies. I sighed, setting the vase down on the gleaming granite countertop. Audrey, my daughter-in-law, stood in the kitchen entrance, a vision in white. Her wedding dress, costing more than my first car, was hanging pristine on a hook by the door, and she was wearing a silk robe that probably cost just as much. They're both white, Audrey. I thought they looked lovely, I said, trying to keep my voice even. They look cheap, Diana. She waved a dismissive hand. The best gift you could give us at this point would be to just disappear from our family. Her words hit me like a physical slap. I gripped the counter to steady myself. She smiled, that bright plastic smile I'd grown to detest. It never reached her eyes. My son, Matthew, walked in, toweling his hair. He didn't even look at me. He kissed Audrey's temple. She's right, Mom. We're trying to have a perfect weekend, and all this negativity. It's ruining the vibe. Negativity? I finally found my voice. Matthew, I've been arranging flowers since dawn. I spent yesterday confirming the caterers and picking up your suit. The only negative thing I've done is question whether we needed a $5,000 ice luge. See? That! Audrey snapped, pointing at me. That right there. You're constantly undermining me. My mother said you would. She said you'd try to make this all about you. This is my son's house, Audrey. I'm trying to help. Actually, Matthew cleared his throat, finally turning to look at me with cold, unfamiliar eyes. It's really more Audrey's house now. She's the one who handled the financing, picked all the finishes, made the improvements. I stared at him, my blood running cold. The improvements? If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. I sold my house for you, I said, my voice quiet. The home your father and I restored for 20 years. I gave you $87,000 for the down payment. My entire life savings, Matthew. Mom, we've been over this, he sighed, impatient. That was a gift. You wanted to help us get started. Don't throw that in our faces now just because you're in a mood. She's just jealous, Audrey said, examining her perfect manicure. She's jealous that I'm the woman in your life now, and she can't stand that I'm getting the wedding she probably never had. $87,000, I repeated, the number feeling foreign in my own mouth. You dismissed it as some money once when your friends asked. I heard you. Matthew flinched. You gave us some money. Once. Years ago. We've been paying the mortgage ever since. You can't hold that over our heads forever. Where am I supposed to go? I asked, the sheer, breathtaking cruelty of it settling on me like a shroud. The wedding is tomorrow. My name is on the guest list. Was, Audrey corrected. I had to make a cut for my mother's friends. We just assumed you'd understand. She shrugged. I don't know. A hotel? Your sister lives in Delaware, right? Honestly, Diana, I don't care where you go as long as you're not here tomorrow. You're throwing me out? We're just asking for some space, Matthew said, his voice the very definition of cowardice. This is our special weekend. We'll talk after the honeymoon, once things settle down. I looked at the granite countertops I'd helped choose, the custom cabinetry my money had paid for, the son I had raised who was now a stranger. You're right, I said softly. Audrey looked surprised. She'd clearly expected tears, hysterics, pleading. She wanted a scene she could describe to her friends later. Dorothy being difficult again. I'll pack my things, I said, moving past them. I'll be gone within the hour. Matthew actually looked relieved. That's probably for the best, Mom. As I walked upstairs to the guest room, they'd corrected me every time I called it my room. I could already hear them downstairs. We can finally turn this into my yoga studio, Audrey said, her voice bright. I was thinking more of an office for my gaming setup, Matthew replied. I paused at the photo of my late husband, Richard, on the nightstand. Don't worry, sweetheart, I whispered to his smiling face. The show's not over. It's just getting started. I didn't drive away immediately. I parked across the street just outside the glow of their expensive landscape lighting. I watched them through the picture window, the window I'd paid for. Matthew popped a bottle of champagne. They toasted, laughing, celebrating their victory, celebrating my absence. My hands were shaking, but not from sadness. It was rage, a cold, clean fury I hadn't felt in years. I pulled out my phone and dialed the emergency number my lawyer had given me when Richard passed away. Melinda Calloway's office. Melinda, it's Diana Marlowe. I know it's a Saturday evening. I'm so sorry to bother you. Diana, goodness, it's past 8. Is everything all right? You sound... I've just been thrown out of Matthew's house. The silence on the other end was absolute. Say that again. I told her everything. Audrey's words, Matthew's cold agreement, the dismissal of my $87,000 as some money once, the yoga studio, the honeymoon. I relayed the entire conversation, word for word, my voice low and steady. I could hear furious typing on her end. Those ungrateful... Diana, I've been worried about this. I've been worried ever since Audrey's mother called me last year. Brenda? Brenda Haverford called you? Why? She wanted to inquire about the legal status of the down payment. She referred to it as your little contribution and wanted to know if it would complicate the prenuptial agreement she was forcing Matthew to sign. I gripped the steering wheel. She... What? I handled it, Diana, but it made me very nervous. Tell me, do you remember signing those additional documents I sent over about 6 months after the closing? The ones about the trust? Vaguely. I was still grieving Richard, Melinda. I trusted you to handle it. I did, Melinda said, and I could hear the grim satisfaction in her voice. I need you to drive to my office, right now. But it's Saturday night. I'm sending you the code to the street-level lockbox. I'm at home, but I'm emailing a file to the office printer. It will be waiting for you, along with your original file. I want you to get it tonight. Do you understand? What is it? It's your leverage, Diana. It's the bombshell. Now go. And call me the second you have it in your hands. Melinda's office was dark, the building quiet. The lockbox code worked. Inside was a thick manila envelope. I got back in my car under a streetlight and tore it open. I dialed Melinda's number and put her on speaker. I have it. What am I looking at? You are looking, Melinda said, at the reason I'm the best family law attorney in this state. Diana, I never trusted them. Not after the closing. Do you remember Audrey's spending? I remember her ordering custom Italian tile and laughing that it cost more than my car. Exactly. I was worried they'd default, or that she'd manipulate Matthew into pushing you out. So I protected you. The $87,000 was never legally filed as a gift. It was structured as a formal interest-bearing loan, secured by a lien against the property. I stared at the paperwork. A loan? But I never got any payments. Of course not. The terms were payment deferred until the sale of the property or a significant change in occupancy, like, for instance, the primary investor being illegally evicted. But Matthew and Audrey, look at the closing documents, the deed. You're not just the lender, Diana. To secure the loan, I had you put on the deed as a co-owner. You own 35% of that house. I nearly dropped the phone. What? I own the house? 35% of it. Legally. Irrefutably. Audrey was supposed to sign the final acknowledgement forms. I sent them to her 3 times. She kept forgetting, claiming she was busy with wedding planning for 3 years. But it doesn't matter. Her signature wasn't required for the deed. The mortgage company has you as a co-borrower. The title is clean. It's all completely legal and binding. Through the window, I could see Audrey modeling her veil for Matthew, striking poses. They were oblivious. Melinda, I said, the rage turning into something sharp and cold like ice. What happens if I want my money back? As a 35% owner, you have every right to force a partition sale. They'd have the right of first refusal, of course. They could buy you out at the current market value. The house is worth over $300,000 now. My share, that's over $100,000. Correct. And if they can't afford to buy you out, Diana, then the house goes on the market, I whispered, the power of it landing in my chest, and the proceeds are split. That's the one, Melinda said. So what's our next move? Melinda, I want you to prepare a notice of intent to sell. I want it delivered by a process server on Monday morning. Can you do that? I can, and I will. Consider it done. Now, what about the wedding? You're paying for it, aren't you? The reception, I said, my smile feeling sharp in the darkness. The flowers, the band, the photographer. All on my credit card. Diana, you're not. They want me to disappear, Melinda. Fine, I'll disappear. I hung up and sat there for another minute, watching my son and his fiancée toast their future. My future. I pulled up the contract for the Sunrise Grove Country Club. My name was at the bottom. My card number was on file. I dialed the club's main line. Sunrise Grove Country Club, this is Jennifer. How may I help you? Hi, Jennifer. This is Diana Marlowe. Oh, Mrs. Marlowe, how exciting. The big day is tomorrow. Are you just thrilled? Jennifer, I'm afraid there's been a significant change of plans. I need to cancel the reception for the Marlowe-Haverford wedding. The silence on the other end was deafening. Cancel? Ma'am, the wedding is tomorrow. It's less than 24 hours away. The food has been prepped. The staff is scheduled. The flowers are in the ballroom. I understand that perfectly. And I am fully prepared to pay any and all cancellation fees, as stipulated in my contract. I believe you'll find I am the sole signatory on that contract and the only one who has provided a deposit. I heard a rustling of papers. Yes, the contract is under your name, Diana Marlowe, and your credit card. But, ma'am, surely you want to speak with the bride and groom first. This is their wedding. No, there's no need to bother them. They're very busy. I am making an executive decision as the financier of this event. Please cancel everything. The dinner, the bar, the band, the floral arrangements in the ballroom, everything. Mrs. Marlowe, with all due respect, this is highly irregular. This seems like a family dispute. Perhaps I should call the bride? Jennifer, I said, my voice dropping. The happy couple made it very clear to me, not 30 minutes ago, that my involvement in their lives is no longer welcome. So, I am simply honoring their wishes and removing my involvement. Please confirm the cancellation. Another long pause. Yes, ma'am, the reception is canceled. Thank you, Jennifer. Please email me the final itemized bill for the cancellation fees. I will settle it immediately. I hung up, put the car in gear, and drove to the Harborview Inn. I'd never felt so in control in my life. I checked into a suite at the Harborview, ordered a club sandwich and a glass of expensive red wine, and turned on a movie. I ignored the first 3 calls. They came one after another, starting at 11:47 p.m. Matthew, Audrey. Matthew. When Audrey called for the second time, I answered and set the phone on the table, on speaker. What did you do? Her screech was so loud it distorted the phone's speaker. I calmly picked up a French fry. I honored your request, Audrey, I said, muting the television. You wanted me to disappear, so I disappeared. The country club. Jennifer from Sunrise Grove just called me. She said you canceled our reception. Our wedding reception, Diana. There are 200 people expecting a 5-course dinner tomorrow. Is that so? Well, that does sound like a problem, I said, taking a sip of wine. The phone was fumbled and Matthew's voice came on tight with panic. Mom, what is this? This is insane. You can't just cancel our wedding because you're upset about sleeping arrangements. I didn't cancel your wedding, sweetheart. You can still get married in the church. The church is all paid for. I just canceled the party I was paying for." "The party?" he sputtered. "Yes, Matthew, the $14,000 party. The one with the open bar you insisted on and the seafood tower Audrey had to have." Silence. Dead. Total silence. I'd never mentioned the exact cost before. I'd always just deflected, let them believe in the fantasy. I was the generous mother, and they were the grateful children, blissfully unaware of the sacrifices involved. 14,000? Audrey's voice was a faint whisper. She'd grabbed the phone back. "That's just for the venue, honey. Let's not forget the photographer, that's another 3,000. The band you just had to have, 4,000. The flowers, too. Did you think it was all free? Did you think money just materialized from the air because you two decided you deserved a fairy tale wedding?" But we can't tell 200 people there's no reception," Matthew stammered back on the line. "You're resourceful adults," I said. "I'm sure you'll figure something out. I hear McDonald's caters now." That's when Audrey started crying. Not the crocodile tears I was used to, but ugly, gasping sobs. The kind of tantrum she'd been throwing for months, only now it was tinged with real panic. "How could you do this to us?" she wailed. "We trusted you." "Trusted me?" "Audrey, you literally told me to disappear from your family. I'm simply complying with your direct request. I didn't mean forever. I just meant for the weekend. You're ruining everything." "Ah, I see. My mistake. I was supposed to psychically understand that when you said disappear from our family, you actually meant go to a hotel for 24 hours. I'll try to do better next time." "Mom, please." Matthew tried a different tactic, his voice pleading. "We can talk about this like adults. Come back to the house. Let's work this out." "The house? The house where I'm no longer welcome? The house where my negativity is ruining everything? I don't think so." "Where are you even staying?" Audrey demanded. "That's not really your concern anymore, is it? You made it clear my living arrangements are my problem to solve." I could hear frantic whispering. Can you at least call Jennifer back?" Matthew pleaded. "Tell her it was a misunderstanding." "It wasn't a misunderstanding, Matthew. It was a very clear business decision made by the person paying the bills. But what about our guests? What about Audrey's family flying in from California? What about them? You're still getting married. They can witness that. They just won't get a free lobster tail afterward." "You're a vindictive, cruel woman," Audrey shrieked. "No, sweetie," I said, my voice calm. "Vindictive and cruel is telling the woman who gave you her life savings to get lost. I'm just being fiscally responsible. Which brings me to another point." "What?" Matthew's voice was tight with suspicion. "Have you two actually looked at your household budget lately? Without me?" More whispering. "What do you mean, without you?" "I mean the grocery money I slip to Audrey every time we shop. The utility bills I forget I paid online. The car repair for your BMW last month. The insurance payments. Those little emergencies that keep popping up. Those were gifts," Audrey said, her voice weak. "Were they? Because from where I'm sitting, they look a lot like an allowance. And allowances, my dears, can be discontinued at any time. You wanted me to disappear? You got it. All of me, including my bank account. Good luck." I hung up, turned off the ringer, and finished my wine. By Sunday morning, their wedding day, my phone showed 37 missed calls and 41 increasingly desperate text messages. I ignored them all, enjoying a room service breakfast of Eggs Benedict and reading the paper. The wedding was scheduled for 2 p.m. At 9 a.m., there was a frantic pounding on my hotel room door. Mom, I know you're in there. Open the door." I looked through the peephole. It was Matthew, his tuxedo shirt hopelessly wrinkled, his hair a mess. He looked like he hadn't slept. I opened the door but blocked the entrance with my body. "Shouldn't you be getting ready for your big day, Matthew?" "That's what I need to talk to you about." His eyes were red-rimmed and desperate. "You have to fix this." "Fix what?" Audrey. She's having a complete breakdown. She's locked herself in the guest bathroom and won't come out. Her mother is threatening to fly back to California. The whole thing is falling apart, Mom." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, sipping my coffee. "I hope you work it out." "Work it out? You're the one who destroyed our wedding." "No, son." I set the coffee cup down. "I removed my financial support from your wedding. There is a very big difference." He pushed past me into the room, and I let him. "This is insane. Over what? A misunderstanding? Because we asked for one weekend alone?" "Sit down, Matthew." Something in my tone made him obey. He sank onto the edge of the unmade bed. I remained standing, looking down at my son. "This isn't about sleeping arrangements," I said. "This is about respect. This is about gratitude. This is about you and that woman you're planning to marry treating the person who made your entire lifestyle possible like a human being instead of an inconvenience or an ATM." We've always treated you well," Matthew stammered. "Have you? When was the last time you asked about my life, my interests, my feelings? When was the last time you invited me to dinner because you wanted my company, not because you needed a babysitter for the dog or for me to co-sign a car loan?" He opened his mouth, then closed it. "I'll wait," I said. The silence stretched. "When was the last time you called just to talk? Not to ask for money, not to complain about work, but just to see how your mother was doing?" "That's not fair," he mumbled. "Isn't it? Let's talk about fair, Matthew. In the past year alone, how much money, outside of the wedding, have I given you and Audrey?" "I don't know. A few thousand? Here and there?" "For emergencies. $37,000. His head snapped up. His face went white. 37,000. I repeated, ticking them off on my fingers. 5,000 for the property tax shortfall. 3,000 for your unexpected car repair. 2,000 for Audrey's credit card debt, which she swore was a bank error. The constant $500 grocery top-ups. It adds up, Matthew. We were always planning to pay you back," he whispered. "Were you? Because Audrey was shopping for a new Mercedes last week. You were booking a vacation to Europe for your honeymoon, a trip. I was apparently expected to finance. You haven't mentioned paying me back once. Not once." He slumped forward, putting his head in his hands. "What do you want from me, Mom? I want you to understand that I am done. I am done being your personal bank. I am done being your emotional punching bag. And I am done feeling guilty for having needs while you two take everything I offer for granted. So you're punishing us," he said, his voice bitter, "ruining our wedding day." "No, Matthew, I'm protecting myself. I'm stopping the pattern of financial abuse." "Financial abuse? That's ridiculous." "Is it? You've conditioned me to believe my only value is monetary. You've made me feel that my presence is a burden, but my money is a requirement. Yesterday, you and Audrey told me the best gift I could give you was to disappear. You're going to get exactly what you asked for." He looked up sharply. "What does that mean?" I smiled. It was not a nice smile. "It means you better figure out how to pay for your own lifestyle from now on. It means you better hope Brenda Haverford is feeling generous. And it means you better start looking at apartment listings, because the house situation is about to get very, very complicated." "What? What are you talking about, the house?" "I'm talking about the legal documents in my possession, Matthew. The ones you never bothered to read. The ones my lawyer, Melinda Calloway, insisted on." The color drained from his face. "That's right, sweetheart. I am a 35% co-owner of your precious house, and tomorrow morning my lawyer is filing a notice of intent to sell." He stared at me, uncomprehending. You can't. We bought it. It's our house." "With my $87,000 down payment, yes. Did you think that was just charity? You didn't think I'd protect my investment?" "But you said it was a gift." "You called it a gift. I called it help. Melinda called it a secured financial instrument. Guess which one holds up in court? This is impossible. Audrey would have had to sign something. She was supposed to, I snapped. Melinda sent her the acknowledgement forms 3 times. She forgot to return them. She was too busy. It doesn't matter. My name is on the deed, Matthew. My name is on the mortgage. I own over 1/3 of your home. He was shaking. You planned this. You've been planning this. Oh, please. If I had been planning this, don't you think I would have done it before? I dropped $14,000 on your canceled reception. This is you, Matthew. You and Audrey did this. You pushed me until I had no choice but to push back. So, what happens now? His voice was small, defeated. Now you have a choice. You can buy out my 35% share at its current market value, which my lawyer estimates at about $105,000, or we sell the house and split the proceeds. You have 30 days. We don't have that kind of money. We can't afford to buy you out. I know, I said. I've seen your bank statements, remember? You're broke. You're living a lifestyle you can't afford, and I'm done financing it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I believe you have a wedding to attend. Or whatever is left of it. He left without another word. He didn't slam the door, which for some reason made it all the more final. He looked utterly defeated. The hotel room phone rang. I picked it up. Mrs. Marlowe, this is Jennifer from Sunrise Grove. I have the bride's mother, Mrs. Haverford, on another line. She is quite upset. She's asking about reinstating today's reception. She says she'll pay all the costs if you'll allow us to proceed. I looked at the door Matthew had just walked through. I could hear him pleading with someone on his cell in the hallway. That's very generous of her, Jennifer, I said into the phone, but I'm afraid that won't be possible. Mom, please. Matthew burst back into the room, his phone to his ear. She'll pay. Brenda will pay for everything. Just say yes. I held up a hand to silence him. You see, Jennifer, there are some family dynamics at play. It would be inappropriate for me to accept payment from other family members for an event I chose to cancel. The cancellation stands. I understand, Mrs. Marlowe. I will inform Mrs. Haverford. Thank you, Jennifer. And please send my final bill for the inconvenience fees to this hotel. I'll settle it before I check out. I hung up. Matthew stared at me. She was going to pay. She was going to fix it. She was going to bail you out, just like I've been doing. The bailing out stops today, Matthew. You two wanted to be adults? This is what it looks like. You're enjoying this, he said, his voice raw. No, I said, and it was the truth. I'm heartbroken, but I'm also done being a doormat. Now go. Get married, or don't. Frankly, it's no longer my concern. He left. By 4 p.m., I was sitting in the hotel's quiet restaurant, enjoying a late lunch. The local news was playing on the TV above the bar. Chaos at a local wedding today, the anchor said. Guests arriving at the prestigious Sunrise Grove Country Club were met with locked doors. Sources say the entire reception was canceled at the last minute by a family member. The footage was grainy, clearly from a cell phone, but there was no mistaking it. It was Audrey, in her full wedding dress, sobbing on the country club's front steps, while a bewildered-looking Matthew tried to console her. Excuse me, aren't you Diana Marlowe? I looked up from my salad. A woman about my age, impeccably dressed in a navy blue suit, stood by my table. Her gray hair was perfectly styled, and her eyes were sharp but kind. I'm sorry, do I... Brenda Haverford, she said, extending a hand. Audrey's mother. I froze. This was the woman who had tried to pay for the reception. This was the woman who had investigated my finances. I braced myself for a second wave of attacks. May I? She asked, gesturing to the empty chair. Please, I said, my guard all the way up. She sat down with a practiced grace, ordering a black coffee from the waitress. She watched me for a long moment, and I met her gaze. "I wanted to thank you," she said. "That was the last thing I expected." "Thank me? For showing my daughter who she really is, for doing what I should have done 20 years ago." The waitress brought her coffee. She took a sip before continuing. "I've been worried about Audrey for years, Diana. The entitlement, the way she treats people she considers beneath her, the absolute staggering lack of gratitude for anything she's ever been given. She seems to get that from her father," I said, remembering Melinda's story. Brenda gave a short, bitter laugh. "Richard, yes, he spoiled her rotten. Every tantrum was rewarded. Every consequence was cushioned by a check. Every failure was someone else's fault. I offered to pay for the reception," she continued, "not because I support Audrey's behavior, but because I was mortified for the 200 guests who'd been inconvenienced. But you were right to refuse." "I was? Absolutely. My daughter needed to face a consequence, a real one, the kind that can't be fixed with daddy's money or mommy's connections." "She called me, you know," Brenda said, stirring her coffee. "After Matthew left your hotel room this morning. She wasn't crying. She was hysterical, raging, demanding that I give them the money to buy out your share of the house. And what did you tell her?" "I told her absolutely not. I told her that if she wanted to own a house, she should have tried treating the co-owner with a shred of human decency." A small, genuine smile touched my lips. A woman after my own heart. She accused me of taking your side," Brenda said, her eyes meeting mine. "And I told her, Diana has a side. It's the side of reason. You're just on the side of yourself." She reached into her expensive purse and pulled out a business card. "I'm flying back to California tomorrow. This wedding is a disaster. I assume they got married at the courthouse, or maybe they didn't. I don't really care." She pushed the card across the table. "My personal cell. I know this isn't over. Audrey doesn't give up when she's cornered. She just fights dirtier." "What do you mean?" "I mean, please." Brenda leaned in. "Do not save them from this. Whatever you decide about the house, don't cushion the fall. Don't let them off the hook. Amanda has never, ever faced a real-world consequence, and it's turned her into someone I barely recognize. Let this be the one that sticks." Her words were a strange, cold comfort. After she left, I sat with my thoughts. Fights dirtier. What did that mean? I found out the next morning. I was planning my next move, finding a new apartment, when my phone rang. The caller ID was unknown. "Hello? Mrs. Diana Marlowe? This is Detective Ramirez with the Ventura Bay Police Department." My blood went cold. "Yes? How can I help you, Detective?" "Ma'am, I'm calling about a report we received this morning regarding financial elder abuse. We had a call from a party claiming that family members may be financially exploiting you. They also expressed concern that you might be experiencing cognitive decline and are requesting an immediate welfare check." I gripped the phone. Those manipulative, vicious snakes. They hadn't just played the victim, they'd painted me as mentally incompetent. "Detective Ramirez," I said, my voice shaking with fury, "I can assure you that I am in full possession of my mental faculties. In fact, I'm probably thinking more clearly than I have in years." "That's good to hear, ma'am," he said, his voice non-committal. "But we do need to follow up on these reports. It's our duty. Would you be available to come to the station this afternoon, or we can dispatch an officer to your location?" "No," I said too quickly. I was at a hotel. If they reported me as a missing, confused person, this could get very complicated. "No, I'll come to you. Absolutely. I have quite a lot I'd like to discuss with you about financial abuse, just not the kind my family reported." As soon as I hung up, I called Melinda. "They did what?" she roared. "Oh, that is low, even for her. That's not just dirty, Diana, that's grounds for a restraining order." "Melinda, they're trying to paint me as crazy. They're trying to get my rights taken away so they can nullify the house contract." They won't succeed, Melinda said, her voice turning to steel. But they've made this much harder. You can't just walk in there with your word against theirs. They'll have a doctor on standby claiming you're confused. We need the originals, the hard copies. The ones from your lockbox? I have them, right here in my handbag. Good. That's your armor, Diana. That notarized deed and the original loan agreement are your entire case. Do not let them out of your sight. Go to that meeting. Show him the papers. Show him you're the one in control. I'll be standing by. Call me if you need me to verify anything. I hung up, feeling a surge of confidence. She was right. They could lie all they want. The paper didn't lie. The signatures didn't lie. I had the proof. I was gathering my purse, ready to walk out the door when there was a knock. Not the frantic pounding of yesterday. A quiet, hesitant knock. I looked through the peephole. It was Matthew and Audrey. She was wearing sunglasses indoors, her face pale and puffy. "Go away, Matthew. I'm on my way to a meeting." "Mom, please." His voice was muffled. 5 minutes, that's all we ask. We want to apologize. Properly. I hesitated. Brenda's words echoed in my head. She fights dirtier. This was a trick. But what harm could 5 minutes do? I had the file. I had the power. I opened the door, leaving the chain on. "You have 1 minute." "Diana, please," Audrey whispered, and she sounded broken. She actually took off her sunglasses, and her eyes were swollen, nearly shut from crying. "We're so sorry. We were monsters. I was a monster. We know we've lost the house. We don't want to lose you, too." It was a good performance. I'll give her that. Against my better judgment, I slid the chain off. 5 minutes, I said, backing away into the room, keeping my handbag clutched to my side. Matthew launched into a speech. It was all about his stress and pressure from Brenda and how he'd let Audrey's insecurities get the best of him. He was pacing, gesturing, crying real tears. He was pulling all my focus. And that's when Audrey, sobbing into her hands, stumbled. She didn't just stumble. She lunged, her foot catching on the leg of the small table, holding the hotel coffee service I'd finished an hour ago. "Oh no!" she shrieked. The table went over. The silver coffee pot, still half full of lukewarm coffee, flew through the air. I tried to dodge, but I was focused on Matthew. The pot hit the floor, but its contents arced perfectly, flying directly into my open handbag, which I'd set on the chair beside me. A gallon of dark, creamy coffee saturated everything. My wallet, my checkbook, and the thick manila envelope from Melinda's office. Audrey gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "Oh, Diana, I'm so clumsy. I ruined your bag." I stared at the dripping, brown-stained mess. Matthew had stopped his speech and was watching, frozen. I reached into the bag and pulled out the envelope. It was soaked. The papers inside were a pulpy, ruined mess. The ink from the printer and the notary's stamp was running in rivulets down my arm. It was completely illegible, destroyed. I looked at Audrey. Her eyes were wide with fake horror. Then I looked at Matthew, and for one split second, I saw it. A flash of pure, cold triumph in his eyes before he masked it with concern. They exchanged a look. It was all the confirmation I needed. "Get out," I whispered. "Mom, it was an accident," Matthew started. "Get out!" I screamed, pointing to the door. "Get out of my room, now!" They scrambled out, Audrey resuming her sobs. I stood in the middle of the room, dripping coffee and ink, holding the ruined remains of my leverage. They had done it. They had actually done it. They'd destroyed my only proof. I walked into the Ventura Bay police station an hour later, furious, defeated, and smelling faintly of stale coffee. I had no file. I had no proof, just my word. "Detective Ramirez?" I asked the front desk. He came out a minute later, younger than I'd expected, with intelligent, patient eyes. "Mrs. Marlowe, thank you for coming in. Let's talk in my office." He closed the door. So, my report says a family member is concerned you're being exploited and are confused about your financial situation. They're worried you're making irrational decisions. Irrational, I repeated. Like canceling a wedding reception after my son and daughter-in-law told me to disappear from their family? His eyebrows rose. That's their version of events? That's the truth. The concerned family members are the very people who have been financially abusing me for 3 years. Mrs. Marlowe, those are strong accusations. And I had the proof, I said, my voice thick with anger. I had the notarized deed showing my 35% ownership of their house. I had the original loan documents. And 2 hours ago, my daughter-in-law accidentally spilled an entire pot of coffee on them, destroying them completely. He leaned back, his expression unreadable. That's convenient. So you have no documentation. I have this. I pulled my laptop from my ruined bag, and my phone. I set the laptop on his desk and logged into my online banking. Here's the wire transfer for $87,000 to the title company. And here, and here, and here are the $37,000 in emergency payments I've made to their accounts over the last year. His eyes scanned the screen. That's substantial. Now, my phone. I pulled up my call log. I'm calling my lawyer, Melinda Calloway. I'd like you to listen. I put the call on speaker. Melinda, it's Diana. I'm here with Detective Ramirez. My proof is destroyed. I know, Diana. Melinda's voice was sharp. Detective, my name is Melinda Calloway, bar number 28551. I am Mrs. Marlowe's attorney. I am emailing you, as we speak, the digital copies of the executed and filed deed of trust for the property, showing Mrs. Marlowe's 35% ownership stake. I am also attaching the original loan agreement. While the physical copies are gone, the digital scans are on file with my office and the county recorder. Any attempt to declare Mrs. Marlowe incompetent will be met with the most aggressive legal response I can muster. Detective Ramirez's computer chimed. He opened the email. He read, and he read. Finally, Detective, I said. I pulled up my voicemails. This is the concerned message my daughter-in-law left me at 3 a.m. yesterday after I refused to reinstate the reception. I hit play. Audrey's voice, thick with rage, filled the small office. Diana, this is insane behavior. Normal people don't destroy their families' lives over hurt feelings. We're worried about you. Maybe you need to see someone. Get some help. Michael thinks you might be having some kind of breakdown. When it finished, the office was silent. Detective Ramirez slowly closed the file on his desk. Mrs. Marlowe, Detective Ramirez said, I am closing this welfare check case as unfounded. It's clear to me that you are perfectly competent and are, in fact, the party taking rational steps to protect your assets. He paused, then picked up a small pamphlet from his desk and handed it to me. That being said, this is a resource for victims of financial elder abuse. I think you might find it useful. If they contact you again or harass you, you call me directly. I walked out of that police station feeling 10 feet tall. My physical proof was gone, but my case was stronger than ever. As I got into my car, my phone rang. Matthew. Mom. The police just called. They said they're not pursuing the welfare check. What did you do? I told them the truth, Matthew. I showed them the bank transfers. Melinda sent them the digital copies of the deed. I even played them Audrey's 3 a.m. voicemail, the one where she so lovingly suggested I was mentally ill. A long, choked silence. You're threatening us. I'm informing you that your manipulation tactics are over. You two wanted to play hardball? You just learned I'm the one holding the bat. Now, you have a choice. We can either let the courts handle this as a case of financial abuse and fraud, or you can meet me at Melinda's office. Mom, please, he whispered. Can we sit down? Like adults? We can, but not at the house I co-own, and not without Audrey. Melinda's office, tomorrow at 2 p.m., and you'd better bring a realistic proposal for how you're going to buy me out. Because the 30-day clock just started. Melinda's conference room felt like a fortress, all dark wood and leather-bound books. Michael and Audrey arrived 15 minutes late. They looked like they'd been dragged through a hedge backward. Audrey's face was pale and puffy, her usual polished confidence completely gone. "Dorothy," she started immediately, I owe you an enormous apology. I was stressed. I was overwhelmed. I said things." "Save it," I said, cutting her off. "We're not here for apologies. We're here for business." Melinda spread the digital copies, now freshly printed and notarized, across the table. "Let's review the facts," she said crisply. 1. Diana provided $87,000 for the down payment. 2. The mortgage shows her as a co-borrower. 3. The filed deed lists her ownership at 35%. These are not negotiable. They are facts. Matthew studied the papers as if they might magically change. We had no idea about the ownership stake." "You would have," Melinda replied, "if Audrey had signed the acknowledgement forms I sent. 3 times. But you were busy with wedding planning, correct? For 3 years." Audrey flushed crimson. "The question now," I said, "is how we move forward. I have 2 options for you." They both leaned forward, desperate. "Option 1. You buy out my 35% share at the current market value. As of this morning, that is $105,000. Audrey's face went white. We don't have that kind of money. You know we don't." "Then you'll have to get it. Or we move to option 2. We put the house on the market, effective immediately, and split the proceeds according to ownership. You'd have to be out in 30 days. "We'd be homeless," Michael said, his voice cracking. "We'd have to move to an apartment." "Yes, you would," I replied, "to something you can actually afford, like the rest of the world." What about option 3? Audrey asked, her voice small. "There is no option 3. Those are your choices." "Mom, please." Matthew ran his hands through his hair. "Is there any way we can work out a payment plan? Maybe we could pay you monthly until we've paid off your share?" "A payment plan?" I almost laughed. "At what interest rate, Matthew? With what collateral? You already owe me $37,000 in emergency loans that you never intended to repay. You've proven you don't honor financial agreements. Why would I trust you with another $100,000? "This is going to destroy our lives." Audrey started to cry again. "No, Amanda, this is going to force you to live within your means for the first time in your adult life." "How long?" "How long do we have to decide?" Matthew asked, his voice defeated. 30 days, I said. "You have 30 days to get financing for the buyout. If I don't have a certified check from your bank in 30 days, the for sale sign goes up on the lawn. Our meeting is over." 2 weeks passed. I'd moved out of the hotel and into a short-term rental. The silence from Matthew and Audrey was deafening. I knew they were scrambling, applying for loans, being rejected. Then I got an unexpected visitor, Brenda Haverford. "I hope you don't mind," she said, standing at my apartment door with a bottle of wine. "I got your new address from Melinda. I thought you might need this." I invited her in. "What's the news from the front?" "Terrible," she said, accepting a glass. "Audrey is having daily panic attacks. Matthew is working overtime trying to find a way to get a loan. They're fighting constantly. They're going to lose the house." I felt a twinge of something, but it wasn't satisfaction. It was just tired. "Are you here to ask me to reconsider?" "Actually, no," she said, looking me straight in the eye. "I'm here to give you one last piece of information. I wasn't sure if I should. It feels like a betrayal." "Go on." "Audrey, she isn't as broke as she pretends. Her grandfather, my father, was an old-school New Englander. He despised Richard's new money, and he saw exactly who Audrey was. He left her a trust fund." I sat up. "A trust fund? And she's been taking my money?" A destitution trust, he called it. The terms are ironclad. She can't touch a penny of it unless she is legally declared destitute or, and this is the important part, she is facing a court-ordered judgment or a legally enforced lien on her primary residence. My mind raced. So, she has the money. She's had it all along. Over 6 figures, Brenda confirmed. She's been hiding it. She'd rather cry and manipulate and bully everyone else into bailing her out than touch her own safety net. She called me yesterday crying that the banks had rejected them. I told her to use the trust. She said things I can't repeat. Brenda finished her wine. I'm telling you this, Diana, because they are going to come to you with a low-ball offer. They're going to plead poverty, and it will all be a lie. She stood to leave. Don't let her win, Diana. Don't let her con you. Brenda was right. On day 28 of the 30-day deadline, I got a text from Matthew. Mom, we've been approved for a home equity loan that would cover $60,000 toward buying you out. We know it's not the full amount. Can we meet to discuss partial payment arrangements for the rest? We're desperate. Desperate. Right, I typed back. Melinda's office. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Bring your loan approval and bring Audrey. I then made one more call to Brenda. The next day, we were all back in the conference room. Matthew and Audrey looked marginally better, like they'd rehearsed this. Mom, Matthew started, sliding the loan pre-approval across the table. This is the best we could do, $60,000. We're proposing we pay you the remaining $45,000 in monthly installments over the next 10 years. I looked at the paper, then at Audrey. She was staring at the table, the picture of humility. No, I said. Matthew's head snapped up. No, but it's all we have. It's not, and I'm done with payment plans, but I am going to make you one final offer. They both leaned in. I'll accept a reduced buyout, $75,000. Their eyes widened. But we only have 60, Matthew said. We'll get to that. But if you accept this reduced amount, it comes with conditions. Severe, non-negotiable, legally binding conditions. Anything, Audrey whispered. First, I said, Audrey gets a full-time job within 60 days, and she must maintain it for a minimum of 2 years. A job. She looked horrified. But Michael doesn't make enough money, clearly. Second, you sell one of your cars. The BMW. You will use the proceeds to pay down your credit card debt. All of it. Third, you will submit to monthly financial monitoring by Melinda's office. You will provide bank statements, pay stubs, and credit reports for 2 full years. You will stick to a realistic budget. No restaurant meals, no unnecessary shopping, no new debt. Period. That's like being in financial prison, Audrey protested. No, Audrey, I said. That's called being accountable. If you violate a single one of these conditions, the full original amount of $105,000 becomes due immediately. Audrey shook her head. We can't. A job and the $75,000. We only have 60. We can't agree to this. You're right, I said. It's a tough deal. So let's just go with option 2. We'll sell the house. Melinda, please file the partition sale. No, wait, Matthew said. Mom, we'll do it. We'll do it all. But the money, we don't have the other $15,000. We just don't. I leaned forward. I looked directly at Audrey. That's fine, Audrey. We'll just proceed with the forced sale, and when we all end up in court, you can explain to the judge under oath why you're refusing to pay, while hiding your grandfather's 6-figure destitution trust. It was as if I'd pulled a pin on a grenade. The color drained from Audrey's face. She stopped breathing. Matthew's head whipped around to look at her. What trust? He whispered. Audrey, what is she talking about? Audrey's face crumpled. The lies, the manipulation, the entitlement, it all collapsed at once, leaving behind something hollow and terrified. She had been completely and totally exposed. How did you... she stammered, looking at me. Your mother and I have had some very productive conversations, I said calmly. It seems she's also tired of your lies. So let's try this again. You have the $60,000 from the loan. You will get the remaining $15,000 from your trust. You will meet all of my conditions, or I sell the house and tell Matthew's divorce attorney exactly where to find your hidden assets. What's it going to be? We accept, Matthew said, his voice hollow. He wasn't even looking at me. He was staring at his wife with a look of utter betrayal. We accept your terms. All of them. Audrey just nodded, tears of pure rage and defeat streaming down her face. Excellent, Melinda said, pulling a fresh document from her briefcase. She'd already had it drawn up. This is a new settlement agreement outlining all of Diana's conditions. You'll sign it. You'll have it notarized. And Audrey, you will arrange for a wire transfer of $15,000 from your trust into my office's escrow account by end of day tomorrow, along with the $60,000 from your loan. I watched them sign away their financial freedom. I watched them sign on for the accountability they had avoided their entire lives. Part of me felt victorious. Part of me felt sad that it had come to this. But mostly, I felt free. I was finally teaching them the lesson their parents should have taught them decades ago. Actions have consequences, and family is not a free pass to treat people like garbage. I was sitting on the balcony of my new apartment, a lovely 2-bedroom in a senior community with a pool and walking trails. I'd used my money to buy it outright. For the first time since Richard died, I felt safe. My phone rang. The caller ID said, Audrey. I hesitated, then answered. Hello, Audrey. Diana, hi, I just wanted to call and tell you. I got the promotion. I sat up. Promotion? At the dental office. I've been working as a receptionist, to meet the agreement. Well, the office manager quit and they offered me the job. That's wonderful, honey, I said, and I was surprised to find I meant it. How do you feel? She laughed. It was the first genuine, non-manipulative laugh I'd heard from her in years. Exhausted, but also proud. I'm good at it. I'm good at organizing things. The billing, the scheduling, I like it. You always were, I said. You just never had to use those skills before. There was a long pause. Diana, I owe you an apology. A real one, not the panicked one from Melinda's office. I'm listening. I was horrible to you, she said, her voice thick. For years, I treated you like an ATM and then got angry when you had feelings about it. I told myself you were being dramatic, but the truth is, I was entitled, and I was cruel, and I'm so sorry. I set my coffee cup down, surprised by how much her words affected me. What changed your mind, Audrey? Working, she said simply. Having to work for money instead of just asking for it. Realizing how hard it is to save even $100 when you're paying your own bills. Understanding what you must have sacrificed to give us that $124,000. It shames me. And Matthew? He's getting there, she sighed. He still thinks you were too harsh, but he's selling the BMW next week, and he admitted we needed to change. Diana? Audrey's voice was hesitant. Would you like to come to dinner sometime? Nothing fancy, just homemade spaghetti. We're cooking at home now. A lot. To, meet the budget. I thought about it. The old Diana would have said yes immediately, desperate to restore the family. The new Diana had learned to protect her peace. I'd like that, Audrey, I said. But let's start with lunch, in a public place, baby steps. Of course, she said, relief flooding her voice. Yes, whatever you're comfortable with. Thank you, Diana. Just thank you. We hung up. I sat quietly for a moment, processing. She'd sounded like an adult. An adult taking responsibility, not a child making excuses. Maybe the lesson had finally stuck. My phone buzzed, a text from Brenda Haverford. Heard about Amanda's promotion. Thank you for not giving up on her. I smiled and texted back, thank you for not bailing her out. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is to let them fall. Sometimes love means saying no. I'd spent years being their safety net. In doing so, I'd robbed them of the chance to grow. When I finally pulled that net away, they'd been forced to learn to fly. Outside my window, the sun was setting over the walking trail. My phone buzzed again. A text from Frederick, a nice man from my new hiking group. Still on for dinner Friday, 7 p.m.? I smiled, typing back. It's a date. At 68 years old, I was finally learning what it felt like to be valued for who I was, not for what I could provide, and that was worth more than all the money I'd ever given away. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here,